So, as always, criteria for our session, these never vary. I want to make sure there's an opportunity, even though online, to do what you enjoy doing most, which is talk to each other. So I've built in opportunities during the session for breakout rooms. They're not as good as standing with a cup of coffee in your hand and putting the world to rights that way, but I really hope that you will make the most of the opportunity to speak to each other this afternoon. That will give you a chance to share and reflect on practice with your colleagues. And we have some practice sharing this afternoon from two colleagues from our curriculum partner schools, who I will introduce later on. But because this is the first network of the new academic year, I have dedicated a chunk of the session today to updating you with resources that are now available to you as literacy leads from us in the region. So our agenda for this afternoon, I want to alert you to and give you access to the new and updated Supporting Our Schools site page for English and literacy in the primary. It's been considerably revamped, so I just want to make you aware of it in regards to your role in school. As part of that, I will alert you to the new courses available this year from the professional learning offer for English and literacy. And as part of the afternoon as well, I've asked two teachers from two of our curriculum partner schools to share elements of their practice with a particular focus on curriculum planning today. If we have time at the end of the session, before you all have to dash off at 3:15, I want to just share with you some useful free resources that I've come across recently and opportunities for your children. And then a quick advert for our next meeting in the spring term. So that's the plan for this afternoon. As always, the slides will be available for you in the team space following the session. But if you ever have any doubt about accessing, I've disappeared into the dark here, accessing materials, please, as always, just drop me a line. Okay, so over my summer, we have, as across the teams, we have been going back to the Supporting Our Schools Google site and updating our pages, in particular for the curriculum team. Certainly the page for primary English and literacy was scant at best previously. So I just want to take some time to alert you to what is now there and what is available to you. But also I would encourage you, if it's useful to you, to share links with your colleagues in school so that they can have direct access to some hopefully useful teaching and learning materials, as well as professional learning that will sit on that page. Again, as you receive these slides at the end of the session, there are live links on the slides. So the Supporting Our Schools site primary page for English and literacy. The contents as you go to the page are seen on the screen there. So a section on professional learning, which takes you to the brochure with some advice on how to negotiate that easily as well. Information about me and how to connect with me, about our curriculum partner schools for English and literacy, and then probably the section that will be most used, the resources section. And let's jump in. So at the beginning of every page across our team, there'll be a reference to professional learning. And I'm aware that for many of you, you will have seen the brochure, you'll be aware of the offer this year, and you will have identified any professional learning that supports your school development priorities. But for those of you who haven't been able to see the brochure or are struggling to get on the site, as you access the PL part of the page, you can see the professional learning brochure there, and in the top right-hand corner, you can get into the brochure. On page 2 of that brochure is the contents page, and you can see by the contents there a huge section for curriculum, and our page begins at LLC English on page 57 there. So that will be your way into the offer from our part of the team for PL. And if it helps, I've given you a link on the slide that takes you straight to the brochure as well. So also on our SOS page, a section on curriculum partner schools. Again, just to inform you of the schools that are currently supporting us this year, and in particular, a section on the page School Practice Sharing PL. Over the last 2 years, either online or in person, our schools have provided professional learning sessions. Oh, this is going to drive me mad. Where's the light? Sorry, folks. Schools have been sharing practice, and this section of the site provides sets of slides and recorded versions of professional learning that have been shared, as I say, over the last 2 years. So there are professional learnings with regards to speaking and listening, reading and writing, shared from all of our schools. So with regard to the professional learning offer for the current year, if your school development priorities involve reading, we have 3 specific events that are being offered this year. The first of those is being offered by one of our curriculum partner schools, Maindee Primary in Newport. And in November, they will be offering a day where you can visit the school and look at practice with regards to those early reading skills, pre-reading skills and reading provision for our youngest children for nursery and reception. This is going to be a really fantastic day. It always is in Maindee, with high quality resources and sharing, and numbers will be quite limited for this event. So if you know that you have members of staff who would benefit from joining for this day, I would encourage you to book a place soon. And a polite request from all of our schools who offer PL. Please, if you book a place but are unable for any reason to attend, please let me know in order that I can then reoffer that place to another member of staff from another school. We'd be really grateful, thank you. So with regarding Central PL, I'm going to be running 2 training sessions regarding reading this term, looking at reading comprehension for teachers in 1, 2, 3 and in 4, 5, 6. Part of that day will involve looking at the range of reading comprehension strategies that we're developing in with our children in those age ranges. And one set of resources that you might be interested in that we will focus in on for part of that day are some new top 10 reading responses. Now, I'm sure that many of you are already familiar with these resources from a previous life. The top 10 reading response materials were originally shared as part of the work that we used to undertake for cluster moderation. And these activities were designed to provide pupil samples of work on paper, if you like, that we could then use in relation to level characteristics. Those days are gone with identifying characteristics, so I've slightly updated these materials. These can now be found on the Supporting Our Schools site. So once you're on that site, in the resources section is the section you can see in front of you. So for all of the top 10 reading response activities, we now have a tab that you can click in. And here, just with one example for the Venn diagram, I'm just going to mute Alison for a moment. So just with this example for the Venn diagram, the clicking into the tab takes you into a Google folder, and there you will find an overview document. This overview document provides a brief description of the activity. It also lists the range of reading comprehension strategies that you could, as a teacher, focus on by using this particular reading response activity. There are also in the overview document examples of possible contexts, both literary and non-literary, and importantly, links to pupil proformas, and you can see the examples of those on the screen as well. So for example, an example of a Venn diagram that if it saves you time, that's great. As alongside other similar activities that I know teachers use in our region, such as the double bubble. All of the activities relating to the Venn there, describing the kinds of reading comprehension skills and strategies that can be developed through the use of this activity. But what we've also done, and what the curriculum partner schools are currently doing and will continue to do this year, is gathering examples of pupil work, pupil samples to exemplify the use of this particular tool in a range of literary and non-literary contexts. And those will sit in the pupil samples folder. So whilst these are currently live and can be accessed through the Google site, I very much hope and anticipate that the pupil samples in particular will grow and grow. And I know that many schools across our region use the top 10 reading responses. So if you are a school who use these resources well, I am always on the lookout for excellent examples from your children. So please, if you feel you have practice to share, please let me know, because I would like to magpie them and add them to our site. So, in addition to the top 10 reading responses, part of the reading comprehension professional learning for all the age groups will focus in on guided group reading and how that is working in particular for those age groups. For the year 1, 2, 3 teachers, we'll be focusing in on those the skills associated with the decoding and word recognition, as well as comprehension and the activities to support. On the Google site, you'll find previously shared guided reading resources, as you can see on the screen here. Those associated particularly with your role as leaders, planning tools, questioning tools, support materials for assessment, including examples of record keeping, should you decide as a school to keep records, which of course not all schools do. So as always, as practice is shared with our curriculum partner schools, these resources will continue to grow, but hopefully enough there for you to dip into if that's on your school development plan. So with regards to writing or professional learning over the coming year, you can see on the screen, we're starting off this year with a focus on spelling, everyone's favourite. This is tomorrow. Not nervous about that at all. No, not at all. Really excited about sharing for spelling tomorrow. And our virtual session, which takes place tomorrow, will be focused in on classroom teaching for spelling, and we are inviting teachers and teaching assistants, but also leads. If this again is something that's on your radar in school, then you're more than welcome to join. And if you aren't able to book in time and would like a link, please just drop me an email and I'll see if I can make that happen for you. This will be a session that is recorded, however, and I will give you access to that through our hub team. So if in doubt, please just drop me an email. Spelling has been on your radars in many of your schools over the past, I would say, 2 years in particular. I know that through network meetings that have taken place online, certainly over about the last 18 months, in the evaluation forms that I always put out, there are always a healthy number of leads looking for support, advice, or even just to have conversations about what's going on in your own schools with regards to standards in spelling and teaching and learning of spelling. So the session is running tomorrow, but in advance of that, I thought at your request, it would be a good opportunity to take some time to start to consider what it is that you're currently doing in your schools with regards to spelling. But the ways in which you're addressing that, there is some commonality. I wonder if any of the people who've made a note in their breakout room would be willing to unmute and just give us some highlights, perhaps from their breakout room.
I don't mind, Kath.
Oh, diolch.
Croeso. We said that some of the challenges we found, hopefully I've summed this up okay, was the spelling test not transferring into like the real work, phonics being over reliant with spelling, so they like give it a plausible attempt, but they put in like "ol" instead of "al" at the end of words. Spelling test having too high of a standard for the age group, so it's like that age not stage, and trying to like really like focus on should it be for year groups and stuff like that. And then we also said about parental engagement when we are setting like work to do on Google Classrooms and stuff, maybe 10% of the year group are actually engaging with it, for the spellings especially. Some of the things that have worked though is I discussed at our school we use like the Oxford Owls for spellings per week, and it gives like a real good breakdown, so it's like a common theme of these are misconceptions. We've had Read Write Ink focus in PS1 in a couple of schools that we spoke to. The spellings that we do in our topic or LLC lessons, we break it down in like the VCOT boards. So we're using the VCOT boards daily and saying like these are some of the spellings specific for our topic. And we talk as a class or what spellings might we need and then jot it down. We've also got like the top 100 high frequency words for every year group. So we can work through that, saying, look, these are in the back of your reading diaries. There's also on our website. Like these are the ones which we need to know. And some of the groups we spoke to, they said like they're learning them by rote as well as like that because they're the red tricky words. Reception brain there still on. We've got our Nessie interventions, which are really beneficial to the children who are really struggling with the spellings, whether that's dyslexia, dyscalculia, anything like that, or whether it's they just haven't clicked with the spellings for whatever reason. We've also run reading and writing interventions in schools and closing the gap marking. A couple of us said that with the marking, if we're spotting a common mistake, getting those bespoke spellings as a whole class then and focusing on that for the Fridays, like, right, we're going to have a specific handwriting sessions for warm-ups. And with that handwriting, then we're going to look at spellings and make sure we put that spelling into our writing. And I think I've forgotten her name, but a girl in our group said that they do that in every single session with the handwriting and really focus on the letter formation, which has had a massive impact in their school. Another a chap in our group also said they use Spell Blast through Hub, which is a pre-populated word based on phonic phrases. And it gives opportunity to also set spelling tests, like bespoke ones, which she said that is a little bit of work, but is really useful in his school.
Diolch, Lucio. If only you could be more thorough. I say all the time, it's terrible. Diolch. Any other breakout rooms where perhaps any of those themes were picked up also, or any other observations that came up through your conversations?
I'm happy to talk, Kath, if you want me to.
Diolch. Thank you.
I think Lucio's covered lots of the what's working really well. Thank you, Lucio. We talked about quite a lot of challenges, and Ellis and myself are obviously from quite similar catchment with quite similar challenges, and we talked about the fact that we've got so many children coming in at, and this will be true I'm sure across the clusters as well, but coming in at such a low level that everything, and it does go back to what Lucio was saying about the spelling standards almost not being appropriate for year group fit anymore, because you're having to go back and revisit and reintroduce, but not just for children who are starting in nursery and well, let's leave nursery, but reception. You're talking about children not having any phonemic awareness in year 3, 4, 5, and 6. We actually have a child here who cannot write his name in year 6. And that, yes, there's an ALN need there as well, but it's like that's such a massive challenge then to be able to access the curriculum. And yeah, we talked a little bit about that. Other challenges was that children are having some of that spelling strategy done for them because they're on devices, and all they have to do is like rely on spell check, or if they're on iPads, they can literally just click a button, then they can speak whatever it is they want to say, and it will spell them for it. It will spell it for them, so they don't need to learn. In their minds, they don't need to learn it because there's a quick fix online if I need to go and check something.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, there are some things that you're picking up there that we absolutely have designed to focus on tomorrow. That theme about transference is a huge one. Estin talk in their thematic report for primaries around English and literacy, they talk about the challenges of spelling tests and children learning collections of words that they can't then transfer into their writing, or that are perhaps not appropriate for them with the type of context that they're going to be using them immediately, which I know you've both mentioned there. The importance of assessing. Both Estin and the Education Endowment Foundation talk at length about, should we be assessing what are the common errors across our class, across our cohort, and making that our starting point, rather than, well, these are year 4 children and therefore they should be. Well, no, do we start with assessment and identify what the need is and teach to the need? And certainly Estin in their case studies and the Education Endowment Foundation would suggest, yes, that is the approach. Start with where they are. So I think I don't want to, I can't go, we haven't got the time to go into this perhaps in as much detail as we like, but certainly if you're not able to attend tomorrow, the recording of the session with a lot of resources that sit alongside will be available for you as soon as I possibly can following the session. So thank you all for that. I hope that was useful as a talking point, and thank you, Claire and Lucio. So having said all of that, that's one PL session that's being offered this year, where I'm delighted that Risca Primary, as one of our curriculum partner schools, are offering a day in the spring term looking at, as Maindy are for reading, Risca are for writing. How do we provide the learning experiences to develop our early writers for nursery and reception teachers? That's taking place in February. I'm going to be leading on the building skills for writing for teachers in 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6 in the spring term, with a focus on a learning sequence that builds from that which was used for the Getting It Right training, for those of you who remember the training programme from a few years ago, but also was used for the Literacy Learning Pathway unit. That learning sequence has been updated with most recent research, and in particular to bolster the connection between oracy and reading in particular and developing children's writing. Those sessions will be taking place in the spring term, so if it would be useful, if it's on your school development plan, those are taking place in January and February. On SOS page now is the new learning sequence which we have devised. This looks at a learning sequence that is common to many teachers in many schools, where a focus from the hook to the final draft would look something like this. And this is the model that will be central to the training that's taking place across the team this year. So starting with a hook to engage and inspire children with a purpose for writing, an excitement for writing, a reason for writing, followed by, in the blue cog, exploring literature that provides children with the... Oh, Jonathan, can you see the slide?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yep.
Which provides children with that richness, that base for reading. Oh, some people can see and some people can't. Gosh, it's just all happening today. Okay. Oh, okay.
I can't see the slides. I can't see the chat either. Sorry.
Ooh, okay. Let's just have a go. Jonathan, you can, is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Lucio, you're nodding, you can see.
Yeah, all fine my side, just a chat for me.
Oh my goodness.
I can
Uh,
see as well, if that helps. I can. So
You can see. Oh, apologies. I don't know why some of you can and some of you can't. Apologies. Okay, so we're getting some messages for people who can. Apologies. I'm going to carry on for those that can. So the English learning sequence starts with the hook. It looks then at how do we engage children in that reading activity with high quality literature, where children explore that model of a text and read and develop their response to text, their comprehension of text, their engagement and analysis and enjoyment of text. And following that, we develop activities where we might use that same text or another as a model with regards to what is it about this text that I'm going to use and exemplify when I replicate that in my writing, or reading as a writer, and identifying the text features and the language features that the writer, that the author has used, with a mind to then developing that same knowledge and skills to employ in their own writing. And following on from that, all of that rich planning opportunity, which requires that the children use their speaking and listening skills, their reading skills, their drama skills to engage and develop content, to plan and to organize those ideas, either individually or with others. That teaching, that explicit teaching of appropriate language, and spelling and punctuation in particular, that have been drawn from the model to be then developed for the children to use in their own writing, and practicing those in short burst ways in a context that they can then employ in their own writing. And finally, that cog that gets longer as the children get older and more able to draft a section, to revise that section based on feedback or self-evaluation, to edit for accuracy, and then that process of draft, revise, edit, and opportunities where appropriate for the audience and the purpose for the children to publish that work. So this learning sequence is forming the basis of our training this year, and actually is being used in a number of schools across the region already. This learning sequence you can find in the resources section on our SOS page, if that's something that's of interest to you. So front loading with reading and oracy, before then focusing in on how those impact on the development of children's writing skills. And now I'm going to invite Di from Clytha Primary. Di, can you see the slides now?
Just go straight to the next slide.
Di, can I invite you to introduce yourself first, because I've done a terrible job. Diolch.
Of course. Hang on. Right, can you all see me? Hi, I'm Di. So this is a bit new for me. Ree, my partner in crime, usually does all of this lovely stuff. I usually do the stuff in the background. So I'm Ree. I share the LRC lead with. I'm Di. I share the LRC lead with Ree. I'm based in year 2. Ree's based in year 6, so we work really, really well together. But Catherine's asked us to just share our writing journey from PS2 with you today. So I'm just going to, so please bear with and be super kind, because this is not me. Okay. So on the first slide, so slide 1. So this is what, oh my goodness me, hang on, I'm sorry, I've lost it.
Oh, don't worry. This is the slide where you have.
Right. Okay, got it. Okay, so yeah, so this is just Catherine has just taken snippets from what we sent across for our annual writing journey. So learners are expected to write and arrange in forms So each year group, they're given the different forms and genres, so letters, narratives, poetries, recounts. We've given everybody all of those different forms and examples, but obviously teachers then can adapt depending on their themes, news events and current topics. Obviously, the range of purposes and audience is super important, making them meaningful and real life where possible as well, and that applying the writing across the curriculum as well. Lots are linked to humanities, we found, so we're just trying to make sure we've got that breadth across all areas of learning as well. So then the opportunity, so the next bit was opportunity for writing. So including that hook or rich stimulus. So this is the kind of sequence of all of our lessons, all of our lesson plans. There's a little bit of a snippet there of our weekly planner. So you can see within our weekly planner, those opportunities are there. So the emphasis on that high quality modelled and shared reading and writing in every session, focus on that drafting and editing through that self and peer assessment as well. Really, really important that the children are involved in their own learning and the learning of their peers. Against that careful, clear success criteria that we highlight in our planning as well. That's obviously shared with the learners, and that's how they self and peer assess. Oracy, drama and Voice 21, we've put a huge emphasis on that, because obviously if you can't say it, you can't write it. So in all of our lessons, high priority is given to speaking and listening. It's that importance of oral rehearsal prior to the writing. High quality questions are planned for as well. So within our weekly planning, we make sure that those questions are planned for. I know there are some questions that obviously will come up as you're teaching, but it's really important that you've got that not just closed questions, you've got those open-ended questions to us. We found it really useful, especially we've had a lot of new staff, NQTs, you know, just making sure that we're giving a balance of the type of questioning that we use in our lessons, and the opportunities for independent writing as well as the shared writing. All of that is it within our weekly planner to make sure. I think what we found was before a clear structure, some of those elements were being missed out. So it's really important now, it's clear for everybody to see that in every single session, those are the expectations for that planning, leading up to the planning then for writing. So the short first, which then moves into the extended piece. Maybe if you go to slide 2 then for me,
So,
Catherine.
Yes, I'm on the slide with
slide.
yeah.
So slide 3 maybe. So
Text to inspire.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Diane. No, honestly, perfect.
So sorry. Okay, so text to inspire. So then at the beginning of every progression step, we've got a progression step guide, then this sits beneath the progression step guide. So for each progression step then, in each year group, we've split it up into each year group, and we have a list, just a list of text to inspire. And they're not a set in stone, you know, it's a working document. We always add to it, you know, whenever we've heard of additional texts, they obviously go on, whatever's, it can be really, it's really current with your class as well. I remember in my class, the 6 Dots came about, a story of young Louis Braille, because I had a child in my class who had a father who was blind. So, you know, it's thinking about your learners as well, trying to include text that every child can see themselves in. So the books we choose, you know, making sure the diversity in content, the language, the main characters of and the stories, making it relevant to the children, making it relevant to our learners and the makeup of our class. So that's why inevitably they will change year on year. And they don't always lead, so these are text to inspire, they don't always lead to a finished product of writing, these in particular, the text to inspire, but can act as a stepping stone or to support additional work in drama and oracy, just purely for drama and oracy, but they obviously can then lead to extended pieces of writing. And as you can see from the list, it's quite easy to see that Blwyddyn Un, you know, shorter text, they're not spending as long on the text, and then by the time you delve into Blwyddyn Tri, they will be spending longer and delving a bit deeper into the text. But as I said, it's a working document, you know, it changes and we add to it, we take things out. But we feel it's really important to go from your class, and we always start off with our Cynefin project in school in this autumn term, so that we can get to know our learners, you know, get to know the different languages that we're going to have within our class, get to know the different abilities within our class, their backgrounds and all of that. And that's a really, really important to us. I'm sure it is to everybody, but yeah, it makes sense that every child can see themselves in the books that we choose and the text we choose. I think that's all I really need to say. And then the final slide.
Stories.
Yeah, lovely. So this is just a snippet. This is one of the genres. So the narratives and stories. So again, we've got Blwyddyn Un, Dying Tree. And so we've got examples of one of the forms of writing, what it looks like. But again, this is, you know, we give the teacher full rein to make it fit for their class. You know, so these are just some of the examples on how we've used them, those genres, and how it looks in year one. So year one is very much that school-based local area, you know, what's really relevant to them. Year two, more of a national context, you know, we take things from the news, whatever's happening, and make it relevant again to what is happening in the national context. And then moving on to Blwyddyn Tree, where it's more global and worldwide issues and themes. So that's just an example really of where we're at there, just little snippets. And as I said, all of that then feeds into our weekly planning as well. And I think I did put an example, but I'm not sure now, Catherine, where that example might be.
No, I think that I don't think we included that in the end.
No, okay, that's fine.
Sorry, Di.
Sorry. Is that
Perfect.
okay? I'm so sorry. That was
absolutely.
very
Listen,
difficult. I'm sorry.
I've you know, first time presenting, and then the text lets you down, which is not you, that's me, that's this. So I am so apologetic, and thank you very much. I'm going to just that's going to lead us in, I think, to another breakout, if that's okay. But just before. Okay, so I think we're all back. Hopefully you've had a chance to chat together. I wonder if any at the breakout rooms, perhaps are the breakout rooms that we didn't hear from last time, if there's anybody who feels that there's something that was shared in their group that would be worth sharing across the team here. Is that idea about having a sequence of expectations for learning over a period of lessons something that other schools have? Is it something that's useful? Is it something that's necessary or not?
Hi, Catherine. Yeah, we talked in our group and we said that we followed the similar model with, you know, RSC and reading and all those little skills, but up to a build-up of extended writing usually in our school. And then we went on to talk about from there not only mapping within that short period of time, mapping the texts, the diversity of the text, the balance of the text, and then the writing all throughout the school to see it progressively.
Thanks, Carolyn. That's really interesting. I think that seems to be a theme that I am hearing in schools, about that idea of, to some degree, mapping some core literature that can be relied upon through the school to be shared and explored. And particularly, I wonder if you could say a little bit more from that breakout room, in particular about that theme of diversity and text. Was that your school? Was that something that came up in your breakout room?
Well, it's part of the cluster really, that we're, you know, the DARPL training and everything that came out of that really. But yeah, just looking at the new curriculum really. So it went, you know, Welsh authors, Welsh text, diverse texts, the balance between fiction and non-fiction. And then we sort of mapped it out 2 years ago, and then we've re-looked at it again in view of the new curriculum. So it's like an ongoing mapping out really.
Diolch, Carolyn. Thank you for that. Is there somebody who could come in from another breakout room? Perhaps were your conversations similar? What was the focus with you?
Our conversation was similar.
Thanks, Dawn.
That's okay. We were talking about following a sort of similar to the cogs that you showed. We in our school we've mapped out oracy, reading and response activities in the build up to the writing, focusing that short burst writing, which was loosely based around the right stuff type, the getting it right and get writing, because I'd come from CSC, very similar, which actually mirrors a lot of those cogs in the fact that it was that hook. It's been a bit tricky trying to convince upper key stage 2 they need a hook for a text, especially year 6, but they and we've gone down the road of looking at core texts which will actually get good quality literacy in English work, not just text, which is perhaps a favourite of a teacher's and they've done it since the year dot, or it's a book that they love, or it connects to a topic, because we did have a lot of books were picked because they linked to topic, but then they weren't necessarily able to show the quality English examples that we wanted to see within the text for what we were doing. So we're trying to build up a little bank of core text, so similar to the sort of text to inspire. So there's not just a text, but a few that would show similar things for the mapped against the text types, which would show good examples for that.
Thank you, Dawn. Thanks very much. Is there anybody else who would like to come in and offer a comment or some feedback from their breakout room before we move on?
I've got a little something to say. Our group were talking about more like topic focused books as their hooks, and then having a book spine as well of this is the core crux that we need to read, and then I've forgotten his name now, sorry. He told me as well. Oh, that's my memory. He's the chap in our group said that he used like writing revolution, strategies for that short burst practice, which was really interesting. The only thing that I would say, like when I was speaking to, not in our breakout room, but to teachers just in general, is like that exploring a model text as reading as a writer. I think that's something that sometimes gets missed in that cogs. And then that obviously breaks the cogs down because they're not understanding why the writer's doing it in a certain way. But that's all I wanted to add.
Diolch, Lucio, and that's why that particular cog is there. It is the link between that engagement with the reading and the author and the choices they make about how they write, the vocabulary they use, the grammar they use, the vocabulary they use, and how understanding how authors use them helps the children to see the point for them using them. And so that cog of reading as a writer in particular will be focusing in on the writing training with a particular focus on grammar. How does grammar work in text, and how we explore that to use in our own writing. So I hope the chance to speak to each other there was useful. It does take us into the next part of the offer for professional learning, and I just want to raise the planning for long-term progression in English. We've been asked this year to make our titles do what it says on the tin. You can see that. So this professional learning is a sequence is 3 days long, down from 4 days last year to 3 days. This professional learning sequence is particularly around curriculum planning and curriculum planning for English, specifically for English. And these 3 days are adapted from the 4-day event that happened this year, where we looked at devising a set of progression maps for core concepts in English, something which has been difficult in our curriculum planning and is specific to LLC. In the other areas of learning and experience, the concepts are almost identified in the rationale, in the statements of what matters. But for English, it perhaps not as straightforward as that. So this was the work that's been undertaken currently by this year's programme, where teachers looked at the 4 areas, the 4 statements of what matters. What was it? What are those core concepts that are driving teaching and learning in English in particular? And so 7 concepts were developed this year with this year's cohort of teachers from across our region. And in the coming year, we were inviting teachers, or ideally teachers from across a cluster, where a secondary and the primary feeders meet together to identify what progression might look like for them. But so the concepts explored this year, you can see on the screen. So the core concepts that drive reading, writing, oracy in terms of English language and English literature in particular. And these have been devised from year 1 to year 9, and with a particular view to looking at that consistency from primary to secondary. And if we just take one of those concepts in particular, if we take grammar, and I have to say this is the concept map that I have been using most widely with schools that I'm working with this year, who've engaged with me to help them think about progression in their schools. The progression documents all start with statements about what is it that we're talking about in terms of this concept? Why is it so important for teaching and learning English from year 1 through to year 9 and actually into GCSE as well? And for each of those 7 concepts at the moment, so for grammar, we've identified what is the knowledge the children need in progression step 1, 2 and up to 5. What are the skills? What are the statements that we're looking for? I'm able to, I can, I use. What are the skills that we want our children to be able to use with an element of consistency and independence? What's the vocabulary that we think drives that concept in each of the progression steps? And suggestions for the kinds of experiences that are required for children to develop those knowledge and skills in the progression step. These concept maps, I'm waiting for permission to pop into our Teams and to make available on our SOS page to support you in planning for progression in those key concepts. And if you're interested, in particular, we're going to be focusing on progression for grammar and punctuation in our Excellence in Writing Day that will take place in January. And here we're going to be focusing on progression step 3, and we're inviting year 6 and year 7 teachers in particular to come together and look at what progression in grammar and punctuation with the COGS looks like at progression step 3. So if that's something that you're interested in across your cluster ideally, or just for your school to look at where you're aiming for in year 6 with a mind to grammar and punctuation, then this Excellence in Writing will be the session for you. Coming to the end of the PL now, the final 2 events that we'll be hosting this year, both of them online, both will be recorded, and both will be an opportunity to look at video case studies from across our region. The first with video case studies. What is it about the range of phonics programs that we see being used well in our region? What works well? Why do they work? What are the challenges of a range of phonics programs? And the that virtual meeting will follow live and recorded video excerpts from schools across our region using a range of phonic programs. And some of those that we will be focusing on will be Read Write Inc, Sounds Right, Jolly Phonics, and a range of other phonics programs with head teachers that I've yet to nobble from across our region with regard to the range of programs that are being used. So I think that's going to be a really useful session, and that will be recorded. Similarly, we're going to be inviting schools from across our region to share the literacy interventions that they're using, what works well, how do they organise it, what training would they recommend, and that primary literacy intervention session will be taking place in January, and it will be drawing particularly on practice from our partner schools. So that brings us to the end of our professional learning offer this year. And at this point, I'm hoping that we have Paige from Risca Primary. Paige.
Hiya,
oh, we have sound. Can you see slides?
I can now see the slides. I couldn't earlier, but now I can.
Oh, you're a marvel. Thanks, Paige. Paige, I've invited Paige to talk a little bit about their genre map and to just give a flavour of, from the point of view of year 3 and 4. Is that right, Paige?
Year 3 and 4, and then years 5 and 6.
Oh, perfect. Right. So you can see the slide. Tell me when you want me to just move to the next image. And over to you, Diolch.
So before I begin, I'll just apologise. The children have just gone into assembly. So if you hear any singing and you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll try and find somewhere else or do something. So we don't plan formally for English. So if we plan, for the people who plan English, the genre map is their holy grail. This is your first protocol. And then you'll go to your Alan Peat sentences, which each year group focus on different Alan Peat sentences, and then our skill lists as well. So all the staff were involved with the development of the genre maps across years 3 and 4 and year 5 and 6. And as you can see, we've integrated standalone oracy, DCF, poetry and reading weeks. This isn't to say that we don't focus on them across the board at all then, and they completely stand alone. These weeks, we just really develop the skills, really embed them. And then throughout our literacy lessons, we consolidate and make sure the skills are kept on the boil so that children are continuously having time to practice and reinforce the skills so they're not forgotten. So over the 2 years, so from years 3 and 4, we just make sure that the children cover a variety of genres, both fiction and non-fiction. Sometimes we find the topic lends itself to more non-fiction texts. And then within the next topic, we'll just try to make sure we are covering a fiction. So by the end of the year, they do have a broad balance. So for example, at the moment, my topic is archaeologists. The first genre text that we focused on was persuasive writing. And we did persuasive writing. Howard Carter was writing a letter to his team, persuading them to carry on with a mission to find Tutankhamun's tomb. And then what we're focusing on now is an adventure narrative, so they can really be creative, they can let their imaginations go wild. And it's set in Egypt, and they're looking for the tomb, and chaos erupts, and everything goes wrong within their stories. So as you can see, we have a 4-week, this is exactly the same from years 3 and from year 3 to year 6. So it's just that consistency, so everyone knows what they're doing, and it's really easy then for the teachers as well. Each genre role is 4 weeks. The first week is really scaffolded. It's a lot of discussion, a lot of mind maps. We have a model that the teachers encourage the children to magpie ideas from. It is really a supported week where we are just retelling the story. The second week is where we kind of ease that support. The children can put their own spin on their ideas. So for example, if on my model, the story set in Risca, next time the story could be set in a different country, but we're using the same format, the same plot. They just put in their own spin on it. Within the third week, this is something we introduced, I think last year, the year before maybe, is our build-up week. So we spend the whole week focusing on building up our ideas for our cross-curricular write. We aim to give them different planning methods that they can use in the future. So for example, start of this year, we planned using flowcharts. We're currently planning now using mind maps. Then we may go on to bullet points. So by the end of the year, or as they approach year 6, it's hoped that the teacher would say, oh, you can plan now using your method of choice. So when they go to comp, they just know that they have a variety of methods. And as we know, I prefer mind maps personally, but that's not to say that everyone else would prefer a mind map. So it does just give them the opportunity to decide what they like. And then within the cross-curricular write, the last lesson, it's exactly the same plot as the first week, but now it directly links to our topic of archaeologists or whatever the topic is at that moment. And the cross-curricular write then, we'd expect to see our key topic words and the subject-specific words included within those. And then, as I said, this genre map then is very, very similar from years 3s to year 6s. The children know what to expect. They know it's a build-up week. They know it's an oracy week. And then the teachers know as well, if they move year groups, they know what is expected too. But then we also have, so this is the genre map, but we also do have the skill lists and the Alan Peat sentences, that if you were planning topic, your next protocol would be to go to those. Is that okay, Catherine? I'm not sure if I covered everything then.
That's absolutely great. Diolch.
At the end of each week, we also do either a self-assessment or a peer assessment. And that seems to work really well. So that's weekly, and we just alternate as the weeks go on then.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And the documents that Paige has shared, there is a link on the slide when you get the slides that gives you opportunity to look in a little bit more detail at what Paige has described for us. That's perfect, Paige. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Fantastic. I'm going to, rather than have a breakout room now, what I think I'll do is I'm going to very briefly share with you some additional resources, and then perhaps try and give you a little bit of time towards the end to come back in and follow up on any further conversations. So have you seen exactly that? Just to alert you, the Books Council of Wales have some packs of materials available on their website, and one in particular is directed at primary schools. If you are a school that are working hard to develop reading for pleasure, the breadth of reading engagement activities that you do with children throughout your school, then it's probably worthwhile casting an eye over their Celebrate Reading pack. There are a lot of resources and materials and links from there. One in particular I think is excellent, and I know that in my travels and working with schools, I'm often asked about recommendations. In particular, I know this was mentioned earlier, Welsh authors, Welsh context, literature based in Wales. There is a fantastic resource in the Celebrate Reading pack from the Books Council of Wales called Cymru in English. The link is on the slide. This gives you, you can click and move your cursor across Wales and click in to the section of Wales. I obviously clicked into South East Wales, and there are lists, for example, of texts by Welsh authors based in the context of different parts of Wales. So, for example, I mean, I would heartily encourage you to have a look in. Obviously, they reference The Valley of Lost Secrets by Leslie Parr, featuring a fabulous World War II story where children are evacuated to Llanhilleth during World War II from London, and they experience rural life in Wales at that time. An absolutely amazing book. Recent winner of the Tir na Nog, very high quality from the fabulous Leslie Parr, who I know a number of schools in the region have engaged with her stories. They are well worth a look. And the Cymru in English resource there from the Books Council, a really great jumping off point to explore a range of high quality Welsh authors and high quality Welsh literature. So I heartily recommend that if you haven't seen it already. Similarly, have to advertise. Bookslam is here again for another year. Last year was fantastic. This year, have you got children in year 3, 4, and particularly 5 and 6 who you want to establish that love of Welsh reading and Welsh literature? Then the Bookslam Reading Challenge might be something you want to engage with this year. The link is on the slide to all of the guidance for the Reading Challenge. In the spring, actually no, what schools that engaged last year engage with this, particularly in the spring term, looking at, as a class, perhaps one of the core texts that are part of the Reading Challenge, and you can see those on the slide. These are this year's curated list. So using one of those books to create with your class a promotional video with only a couple of minutes long. How would you promote this book to other children of a similar age? And the wealth of reading, writing and oracy skills that would come in there. And another part of this reading challenge would be choosing 4 pupils to engage with me online in a reading discussion about that book. Favorite part of my year, absolutely love it. Had a fabulous time with the teams of children from across our region last year. If this is something you're interested in and want to know more about, the link is on the slide, or feel free to just drop me an email and I can send you the materials. Last year's winners, so there are county rounds, and last year Hendredenny Park Primary School were the winners of the Caerphilly round, and they went through to the national final at Aberystwyth. I won't read all of that to you, but you can get a feel from the year 5 pupils who won for Caerphilly, what they enjoyed about the process, and also what the teacher enjoyed and found valuable. I'll just leave you with that for a moment. And then delighted to send through to the final from Blaen y Gwent last year, children from Ystreth Primary. They had a fantastic time, and you can see there that the literacy lead for the school, Emma, found it a really valuable experience, both for the children and for the teacher. And the class teacher, James, also telling us a little bit about why he thought it was well worth getting involved. And I had to include what one of the year 6 children said, that it was one of their favourite days of the year when they went through to the national final. What a fantastic event. I also must give a shout out to Millbrook Primary, who were the finalists for Newport. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond their control, they weren't able to take their children to the final, but they were very worthy winners for Newport, and huge congratulations to all 3 of those schools for being county finalists. If it's something you're interested in this year, please feel free to get in touch. Finally, just a reminder that the Hub whole school approach to oracy and reading provided by Welsh Government, this is a live toolkit of resources, materials, research, reading and case studies from schools across Wales, looking at all things whole school reading and oracy. If either of those are on your school development plan, I would encourage you to keep checking in to this toolkit for additional materials that are constantly being uploaded and shared from across Wales. So that's just a reminder, really. Oh, thanks, Hannah from Millbrook there. Your children were fantastic in the book discussion. A number of literacy leads have either contacted me over the last few months or I visited in person, looking at the challenge of developing handwriting in schools. And whilst I can't solve that problem in the next couple of minutes, I can direct you to a really useful organisation, the National Handwriting Association, would you believe? Their website is a really useful starting point if you're going to do further research or reading about how best to develop handwriting. They have a number of professional learning events that take place, many of them free, some of them obviously there is a charge for, but I really recommend their handwriting, Good Practice for Handwriting Toolkit, which is a free resource and requires that you give them an email address as usual so that they can contact you, but gives you access to some free resources which are really, really helpful. So if that's something you haven't come across yet, I would encourage you, if that's on your radar, in school. So, spring term network meeting, dates for the diary. If you haven't already, feel free to book in with the ticket source for the spring term network meeting, which is due to take place on the 18th of February, same time, online as always. Booking by ticket source will mean that you will get sent the link. But again, as always, if in doubt, just drop me an email. The focus for that session, we've been doing some work this year with the curriculum design group and with the working party to put together an overview of text types that might be a springboard for planning for writing and for reading from year 1 to year 11. That text types overview is currently on our SOS page, which I've told you how to get to that earlier in the session, but we will focus on that in our spring term network meeting, and we will also have representatives from the other curriculum teams to think in particular about the more cross-curricular writing and authentic writing in the other AOLE and how best we can support pupils to develop that. So that will be our focus in the spring. As always, you can scan the QR code or you can use the link in the chat, which I posted a moment ago. Can I encourage you to provide us with some feedback, in particular thinking about what you might take away from this session, but also to consider what we might want to focus on in future sessions.